And welcome back to the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Stern and Tom Crane, coming to you live from Portland, Oregon, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's about 4:49 on the West Coast, 7:49 on the East Coast. NBA playoffs and how they stand right now. As I mentioned, we already have two teams in the finals, or at least conference finals anyway, Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors, both via sweep, as Cleveland swept Toronto very quickly. Again, in 4 games, no problem there. The closest was in 7 games, or 7 points in game number 4. And for the Warriors and Jazz, wasn't even close. All games by double digits, and of course a 26-point win last night as the Golden State defeated Utah 121-95. There were 2 remaining games here, and of course 2 remaining games left. Both series are tied at 2 games apiece. Boston and Washington. Game number 5 is tomorrow. You can check that out live at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT. And then in the Western Conference, you have the San Antonio Spurs and Houston Rockets. That series is tied at 2 games apiece as well. You can catch that game tonight in about 9 minutes. You can check that out also on TNT. So, Tommy, we'll first start out in the East. Cleveland and Toronto. These 2 teams played in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and it was a much better series than it was this year. What was the difference? I mean, is it just Cleveland now being the Cleveland that we had expected them to be all year long, or just Toronto not that good?
It was LeBron. Let's just be honest. It's LeBron all day. I saw some facts from ESPN that this is pretty much his best playoff run, especially when it's his shooting percentage, which was better than Shaq at, I believe, 46%, when Shaq was shooting about 44% from the field. And then he's shooting better beyond the arc than Steph Curry in three-point range at 44%, when Steph Curry's best was 42% in the playoffs. So it seems like LeBron's just getting well-rounded right now, is having is seeing the field, helping out players, running to the basket to get that lovely off-the-glass alley-oop, which was just spectacular. And it seemed like Toronto was just defeated from game 1. So it's Cleveland, who has been well-rested throughout the whole playoffs and has been dominating each game. LeBron James, if he wasn't there, I don't think Cleveland would do it. Not like this. So I'm giving all the credit to LeBron James right now.
Yeah, no, it's LeBron, and it's clear now that he's still in his prime. He's still killing it, and he's making everyone better. From the first man on the roster to the umpteenth man on the roster. It's not even close. And Toronto, yes, they are a much better team than they were last year, but when you're playing a team like Cleveland that's just adding veterans, they're adding sharpshooters like Kyle Korver, you still have Richard Jefferson there that can dominate inside. Tristan Thompson's covering the paint very well. It's just too much. And it's just too much for Cleveland, of course, even beyond the big 3. Kevin Love isn't having the best series at all, but you don't need him to. You just need him to do just enough and just play his role when you have Kyrie and, of course, LeBron leading the show. And look, for Toronto, do I expect them to come back next year and be better? Yes, but again, when you're playing a team like Cleveland, they're on fire, and whoever comes out of this series, whether it be Boston or Washington, I think that the matchup-wise, I think Washington's a better team that can take them a little bit farther just because of their speedy backcourt with Bradley Beal and John Wall, Gortat and Thompson. That would be a matchup to watch as well. I just think that there's a lot more physicality on Washington than there is on Boston. Boston has a lot of players that they can rotate through, and Isaiah Thomas is a great player. And he's honestly, I believe at this point, he's the AI of our generation, or at least he's starting to become that. And not to exactly the level of a superstardom of AI, but I think that he's maybe a notch below that, which is not a disrespect to anything whatsoever. I just think Isaiah Thomas, with what he's been going through on the court and off the court, it's just been a phenomenal series for him. What do you expect from this series? I mean, best of 3, Tommy. Who do you think is going to be the best team? And who's going to win the series? But who do you think would be better to match up against the Cavaliers?
I agree with you. Washington would definitely be the best matchup against Cleveland because of their speedy backcourt and their big man, Gortat. Boston, they do have some good big guys. They got Kelly Olynyk, who apparently, if you remember, and I believe last season, he pulled on Kevin Love's arm and pretty much hurt it pretty badly. And side note, Draymond Green says that Kelly Olynyk is a dirty player. Draymond Green needs to keep his mouth shut because he kicks players in the nuts. So,
yeah,
calm down over there.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's just ridiculous. But, Boston would be a good matchup against Cleveland, but not the best, just because I don't see their big men competing as well like Washington would. So I'm going to have to give it to the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, that's funny with Draymond. Just he likes to run his mouth just almost as much as LeVar Ball does, but it's just not like don't calling anyone a dirty player. Really is just like, wow, it's just funny. I just think that Draymond likes to run his mouth because he likes to get attention because he's the fourth best player on this team for the Warriors. I don't know what it is really. He even ran his mouth saying that he's still stinging over the 2010 Final Four loss to the Butler Bulldogs, which of course Gordon Hayward was on that roster when they lost to Butler in the Final Four. So it's just a lot of things. You put a mic in front of Draymond and you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. But speaking of the Warriors, look, they swept the Jazz, a team that, Tommy, you thought it was going to 7 games in an upset potentially. I said it was going 7 too. But not in favor of the Warriors, not in favor of the Jazz. Definitely the Warriors, just because you saw game number 4 take over, or game number 3, sorry, and where Clay and Steph had their worst shooting night in a playoff game, and yet Kevin Durant was there and took over. And so he went over. I think he went off for 38 and 13 boards, and just was lights out. And I just think that for the Warriors, I don't know. Yes, I think that they're the overall favorite to win of all these teams? Yes. Do I think it's going to be a celebrated title? No. I just think that this team, the first run that they did was pretty impressive in them upsetting Cleveland, and then Cleveland coming back. That was a good 2-year run. With adding Durant, it just loses some of the, I guess, natural development of their players. Just saying, hey, we couldn't beat Cleveland back to back, and honestly, it's a lot of it could be, you could put it on Draymond, or you can put it on Steph, or just completely not sinking shots late in the last 2 minutes of the game 7. But you bring in a guy like Kevin Durant that just adds a whole different dynamic, and instantly he becomes the best player on your team. It's just, I just don't know if I could celebrate them winning a second title in 3 years because it just seems so artificial to me. Tommy, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it just seems like they bought the necessary assets to try and compete for a championship. And it's helping them out, but it's just watering down the fact that they're an excellent team. We know that if one teammate on Golden State Warriors is having a bad night, somebody's going to pick it up, and they'll win the game. But they used money to get there, and sometimes money isn't the answer. It's, the team altogether. And they may be coherent. They may be, I'm trying to think of a good word for this. They may be hanging in tight together. I know that that's probably not the
cohesive
words, but still, it doesn't seem like a family like Cleveland does right now.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Cleveland, yes, they bought as much pieces, if not more, than Golden State, yes, but I think just the way Golden State's arrogance has just gotten to the media, because you also have to factor in LeBron coming back to Cleveland, him winning a championship. Now he's the good guy again in some respects, and so even with all these pieces that were bought in the last couple off seasons to make Cleveland the championship team that they are, Cleveland being the underdog, it makes LeBron James look good again. Back to the old days during his first stint in Cleveland before he left to Miami. It just makes you want to root for LeBron now, I'd say more than at any point in his career, to take down the super team in Golden State. And then speaking of the teams still remaining, of course, you never know, in the Western Conference, you still have a game that they have to, a conference final they have to play either against San Antonio or Houston. Again, the Game 5 is tonight. It's actually going on, going to tip off any minute now. Of the best of three, Tommy, who you got, the Spurs or the Rockets?
If it's a team that I want to play against Golden State and beat Golden State, it would be the San Antonio Spurs. But it's looking like the Houston Rockets might be able to beat the San Antonio Spurs just the way that Harden has been playing. He has been playing at an MVP caliber, better than Russell Westbrook, better than Steph Curry on the West Coast, of course. LeBron James has got the East Coast MVP pretty much. But the way that Harden's been playing and the big men in the back have been, I could see them definitely competing, I am switching my stuff. San Antonio Spurs were the team to compete against Golden State Warriors, but Houston is probably going to win just because of their effort that Harden is putting into it. And I see them actually going to 6. Houston will win the next 2. And that's my guess, but I think Houston will move on.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams, regardless, are going to be hurting bad against Golden State because Tony Parker is out for the rest of the playoffs with a leg injury, as is Nene for Houston. So either of these teams, whoever plays them, is going to be a man down in terms of their versatility, their explosiveness. And Nene was a great player on the boards and the enforcer per se. Capella was a nice finesse center, whereas Nene is more of an enforcer. And Tony Parker, you have an aging veteran. He's been in the league for God knows how long. So, I mean, his leadership and presence from the backcourt perspective, it's top tier. So losing him, yes, that's gonna be awful for San Antonio. But I do think Houston's gonna win it. I do think that they have the upper hand, considering Game 5 is while it is in San Antonio, they just look good. Coming off a Game 4 win, 21 point victory, and James Harden's having a career series so far. So for San Antonio, do I expect them to fight back? And as long as LaMarcus Aldridge stays healthy and can be the guy that he's supposed to be to replace Tim Duncan and be aggressive, I think this will make an interesting series. But I think at the end of the day, Houston has the upper hand. And these best of 3, yeah, I think Houston, like you said, Tommy, they're going to win the next 2, and I think they'll move on to take on the Golden State.